let's start off then by talking about the things the dealer should have done before I collected the car, but didn't. I'd be really interested to know in the comments if you would expect a dealer to have fitted this missing part. Hello and welcome back to the VAGWIZ channel, and firstly big thanks to everybody who has watched the R8 Spyder collection video that I posted on Christmas Day. This has had far more views than I was expecting, which is exactly the kind of motivation I need to make more content with the car. Starting right now, in today's video, I'm going to explain to you the work I've had to do to the R8 Spyder to get it how I want it. Some of this, you could say, should have been done by the supplying dealer. Other bits are me just being fussy. For example, I've never been sure about grey wheels on a grey car, and at the end of today's video we're going to swap the wheels for some that should look better than these. But firstly, let me remind you how you can support the channel. Now, the easiest way to support the channel is simply to subscribe. We're still getting a lot of views from non-subscribers and they're all very, very welcome, but if you want the channel to be around for the whole of 2024, then please do subscribe. Every subscription still means an awful lot. Another way you can support the channel is to sponsor the video. When I take the R8 Spyder to the Geneva Motor Show at the end of February, I now have my Geneva Press accreditation, which is brilliant. It saves me having to pay to get into the event, but that's a tiny cost compared to Eurotunnel, fuel, French tolls and hotels. It's not just going to be an R8 video, although there will be some great content, hopefully driving through the Alps. But I'm going there primarily to report on the Golf 8 facelift, which as far as I know should be revealed at Geneva. Also, I'm going to need some winter tyres or all-season tyres for the R8 to fit on its 19-inch wheels. So if you work for a tyre company or a supplier, or you simply just want to sponsor the video and supply the tyres, then get in touch with me directly, andrew@volkswizard.co.uk. Okay, let's start off then by talking about the things the dealer should have done before I collected the car, but didn't do. Now, apparently it was subject to a 120-something point check, and you'd think one of those checks would be to check the oil level, yet I've had to put 2 litres in it to get it where it needs to be. Now, R8s are a bit complicated when it comes to checking the oil. The car has to be on the flat, the oil temperature has to be over 100 degrees, you have to let it idle for 2 minutes, then switch it off and wait for 2 minutes, and only then can you dip the dipstick, which is actually built into the oil filler cap. And here we don't have a minimum and a maximum, we have a fill and do not fill zone. So if it's in the fill zone, it says put a litre in and then recheck it. Well, it was well into the fill zone when I checked it, and I had to put 2 litres in to get it where it should be. There is 10 litres in an R8, so it's not the end of the world, and there is probably a low oil level light, which I have to say didn't come on, but the dealer I bought the car from sells far more exotic cars, and I suspect they're not going to be as tolerant of low oil as an Audi, and there is no warranty that will cover you if you scrap your engine due to low oil. So anyway, that was a relatively easy fix. Let's move on now to the passenger front door. Okay, now I have to thank VAGCOM for this primarily. When I went to see the car, they very kindly let me plug the car in, and I checked the key areas: engine, gearbox, air conditioning and the electric roof, and they were all clear. There were some other little faults here and there, but I didn't really worry about those too much, particularly because the car had been in storage with the dealer for months and the battery had probably gone flat at some point. But when I got the car back, I needed to just see what those were. I like to have a car with no faults showing when I do a VCDS scan, and there were a few, and some of them were coming back when I'd cleared them. Now, the most interesting one was the door lock. We've had issues with door locks since Mark IV Golf. That carried into Mark V. I've not seen any in Mark 6 or 7, but basically they can be a bit sticky. They can not unlock or lock, and if you're really unlucky, they can not open at all, and you're really in trouble then, because to get to the errant part, which is in here, you have to sort of rip your way in through the door card. The scan suggested that there was a problem with the door lock, but I hadn't actually experienced that. But then how many times had I opened the door? I'd had passengers in a couple of times, but actually when I checked it after the scan, it wouldn't open, and I thought maybe it was on selective unlocking. I was pretty sure it wasn't, but I checked that was off and it wouldn't unlock. If you press the unlock button again, it would unlock, but it was clearly a bit intermittent, and that's maybe why the dealer missed it. I suspect they don't scan every car looking for faults, and maybe it did it once and didn't do it again or whatever. Anyway, the good news is they have agreed to fix that, because it's not actually under warranty, because it's a pre-existing fault. It's like any insurance, you only insure for faults that arise that are unforeseen. You can't say have I don't know, COVID, take out a travel insurance policy and expect them to claim if you carry on going on your trip. And it's the same with cars. In fact, the documentation from the warranty companies, who's called Blue Chip, based in Norfolk, they said it's fraud if you try and claim for a pre-existing fault. So I put this to the dealer and they said, you can either bring it back or we can cover the cost of a part. And that's what we've done. So I've stripped the door down already. I fitted a good aftermarket part and I'm pleased to report there's no issues with the door lock. Now, there was also a fault with the mirror as well, and it got me thinking that it might be to do with the wiring. Well, I did pull the boot off and have a look. I really wished I hadn't done that because it's really hard to get it back on again. I checked for power at the mirror wiring and I got 12 volts there, so it suggested it wasn't a problem with the wiring, it wasn't a problem related to the door locking mechanism, which some things do, sort of the wiring sometimes carries on. Now this, because it's a dipping mirror and a heated mirror and an R8 exclusive mirror, is about £270 from Audi, and the dealer said they wouldn't actually cover that, but I managed to fix it anyway. So basically when I took the mirror lens off and tried to undo the wiring to it, one of the two pins on the back of the mirror came off with the wiring, or it was really loose and it wasn't making a contact. So I took it inside, tried to measure for continuity to just make sure there was a circuit there, otherwise it won't work, and there wasn't. So then I managed to use another type of electrical connector, slot it in under the heater element, and I got continuity. And then I connected the original pin to that, and then I sealed it all up with some black mastic. It's all sealed up with kind of mastic anyway, and then connected it, edit heats, and it still dims as well. So yeah, if you've got a mirror with like a rim around the edge of it, that's a self-dipping one, and they can be really expensive to replace, and I don't think even for more mainstream cars there are aftermarket options. Right, now let's talk about the bonnet panel gap. Now, I'm yet to see a Mark 1 Audi R8 where these panel gaps are as good as they are on a normal Audi. I don't know what it is about the R8. Maybe it's because it's based on an aluminium space frame rather than a steel monocoque. I don't know. But that's why I didn't notice on this car this gap was even bigger than usual. I was looking at the car out of my kitchen window and it just kept on nagging at me and I had to have a look at it. I'm not sure why it was out of alignment. The bonnet is perfect, but I don't think it's been painted. The front structure looks original. I had the covers off under the bonnet to have a good look at it, and nothing looks strange down there, so it's a bit of a mystery. On the plus side, it didn't take a long time to adjust. All you have to do is pop the bonnet, undo the two nuts that hold the bonnet to the hinge, and just push it this way a bit. It took 2 attempts. On the second attempt, I think that's pretty good for an R8. Now let's talk about something that was missing from this R8 that is quite a common thing. Now, a little quirk of the Mark 1 Audi R8, I'm not sure if the Mark 2 has got this, is that there is a seal that forms basically the wheel arch, and it's clipped onto the inner arch liner, and then this inner trim, which is separate to the arch liner, they kind of sit like that in this area, it clips into that as well, and basically it fills the gap between this inner trim and the bonnet when you shut the bonnet. That's probably for aerodynamic reasons. It'd probably make a hell of a noise at 180 miles an hour if it wasn't there, but also it stops muck getting chucked into the area under the bonnet. There's a bit of muck on there to show that it wasn't actually fitted to this car when I bought it. Now, I'd be really interested to know in the comments if you would expect a dealer to have fitted this missing part. I'm pretty sure the dealer I bought the car from wouldn't have actually fitted it, even if I'd asked them, because the price was pretty keen. But anyway, the good news is it's only £30 or £35 to get one of these, and yeah, they're very, very easy to fit. Just make sure it's really secure. Right now, let me show you some of the things I've done that are more personal preference than actual problems. Okay, now on to things that are just purely personal preference. Because I'm not going to use the car an awful lot, I've connected a C-Tech charging cable to the battery which sits behind this trim, so I just have to plug in there rather than fiddle with the terminals. I've given the boot a good clean because it was a little bit grubby, particularly cut this little bit of carpet here. I've also fitted an extra bit of tyre foam just in case. But the question is, if you've got a Mark 1 facelift R8, let me know if I should have a jack, because there's a space there for a jack, but there was nothing in it, and I can't really see the point of carrying a jack around when you haven't got a spare wheel. But if it should have one, then I'll need to get one. Okay, now let's have a look inside. The good thing about cars like this is there's not an awful lot of interior to have to clean. So first thing I wanted to do is make sure this seat hadn't been smart repaired, because a lot of dealers do that and it looks good but it doesn't last forever. But I'm pretty convinced this is original. Yes, it's got some wear, but it's not bad for the age and mileage. So all I've used is Autoclaim leather care cream just to moisturise it, and that should reduce the wear and tear. A lot of you guys said about my GTD estate you need to use a magic eraser to get the shininess off the steering wheel. Then I did a YouTube short with me doing that on a TT, and a lot of you guys said you're taking the colour off by doing that. Well, I've done it on a few cars now. I haven't taken the colour off, but you do need to be careful because the magic erasers seem pretty aggressive, and if you're not careful you'll end up stripping the dye off. So some of that black on your magic eraser may not actually be just dirt. But anyway, use it carefully and it does a great job. As you can see, it's nice and matte. I've used Maguire's plastic trim and rubber dressing, which is really good, makes everything look a lot fresher. The mattes I've given a scrub to, but they still look a bit grubby and it is quite worn there. So if anyone can recommend any mattes, then let me know. I've ordered some stainless covers for the pedals, so that'll be interesting to see what they're like. They should be here in a couple of weeks from China. And that, I think, is it. So now, let's move on to swapping the wheels, because while I've been looking out the window at this car, I've kind of really not liked the look of grey on grey, and particularly the back from a certain angle looks really small. Now 19s are a bit small for a car like this, and making them grey makes them look even smaller. So let's get them off and see if the wheels I've acquired look better. Okay, let's start off then by having a look at the wheels we're going to fit. It doesn't take an R8 nerd to notice they are identical in style to the ones already on the car, but instead of being titanium, they are a straight silver, which is fine by me. I think these wheels are lovely, they just don't work great on grey, so let's hope silver on grey looks a lot better. Now they are straight silver, which was the base wheel colour for the Mark 1 R8 V8's facelift. You couldn't change the wheels, you could only change the colour, so you could have silver and diamond cut, or you could have titanium. If you change the colour from base silver, they gave you weirdly a 305 tyre instead of a 295. Well, this, even though it's silver, has got 305, so maybe they were silver originally, someone just fitted the bigger tyre when they replaced tyres, or maybe these were diamond cut originally and someone just went for straight silver. They've definitely been refurbished because the finish isn't perfect, but it's still very good. And big shout out to Jake at Cars of Somerset, who supplied the wheels. I saw the advert on eBay, and unusually they were as good, if not better, than described. And even the tyres are really good. So these Pirellis are all right, but we've got Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's on all four wheels, and they've all got at least 5.5 mil of tread on them. So, and I've checked them out and I've checked the tyre pressures, and they're all holding pressure really nicely. So yeah, let's get fitting them onto my R8 Spyder. Well guys, there we have my R8 V8 Spyder now with silver wheels as ever. Let me know what you think in the comments. I've already got a good idea how that's going to go though, because a couple of days ago I did an Instagram story with a poll and I gave you guys the options of silver or grey on this car, and 57% of you went for silver, which is just as well because I was going to fit them anyway. But really there should have been an undecided option on the poll, because actually I wasn't completely sure they would work, but now they're on the car I am super happy, and that's because quite simply they make the wheel look as big as possible. That's important on the Mark 1 R8 because there was no factory option 20-inch wheels. There was on the Mark 2, which isn't that much bigger, and if you've got 19s on a Mark 2 they're really hard to sell, so they're very wheel sensitive cars. With silver now we've got a big contrast between the wheel and the tyre, which wasn't the case with the grey, and we've also got a really big contrast between the wheel and the body now as well, so that it stand out as much as a wheel can do on this car if you want to stick to a factory style and size. This car's got black styling pack, which means it doesn't have any sort of chrome on it on the grille, etc., but it does have this matte aluminium surround to the windscreen, which I think kind of works really well with the silver wheel, so I am super happy. Future plans, well, I want to change the mats as I said earlier, because some higher quality ones with a bit of colour would liven up the interior. It's not the nicest interior, to be perfectly honest. I want to fit Apple CarPlay because I love that in any car. Thinking about one where you keep the original head unit and just put a load of boxes behind it and it runs CarPlay, that suits me because I actually don't want to change the look of the dash. I want to fit cruise control, which is surprisingly easy. And finally, I want to fit an R8 number plate. So this car was made for a personal number plate because it's an R8, and that number is available from the DVLA in the UK because it's a 1997 plate, so it fits any R8. As ever guys, thanks for watching this VAGWIZ video. Keep subscribing, keep commenting, and I'll see you for the next one very soon.